One more time if you have it in you at some point.
Sure.
Very cool. Like even just right here, how his brain, where his brain is at a normal state, Peng, is pretty optimal because you don't have a lot of beta, which is like excess mind chatter kind of stuff. And it's like you can tell that you've really quieted and trained to that because it's so quiet until you choose to tap in. So it's like you truly have a lot of control over your mind in that sense. Well, what I do is I offer a service called brain state conditioning, which balances and harmonizes a person's brainwave frequencies and allows the brain to create new neural pathways around a state of balance and harmony. We use electrodes and sound to do this, and it's essentially letting the brain see itself through sound. So it's based on quantum physics, which states that what's observable can then be changed. And so we're allowing the brain to observe itself, and as it recognizes its own imbalances, the brain will begin to say, it will begin to hear when it's in a more balanced state, and it will just resonate and almost migrate to that state of balance, and then begin to create new pathways around that balanced state. So it's essentially deprogramming the brain from any stress or trauma we've gone through throughout our lifetime, which can create neural pathways of imbalance that allows the organism to survive, you know, day by day. But the pathway or the brain doesn't always actually need to hold on to those imbalanced states. It just thinks it does for survival. So we're just training it to go back to that state of homeostasis. We've looked at Peng's brain because he's super abnormal, has a superhero brain. What we noticed while we were doing our experience with Peng, or our experiments here, is that when he gets into his altered states, he seems to have an excess of gamma brainwave frequencies. And on the graph here, you might be able to see that. So we timed it, and each of these humps here are when Peng was going into an altered state. And if you notice on this one, he gets up to about 10 hertz of amplitude of gamma, which for the average individual, that's just on kind of like normal state of consciousness. I rarely see it get above 3 or 4 hertz down right around this area. And the only other times I have seen people get up in these hertz are individuals who have psychic intuitive abilities, or have been, for example, channeling in a session while they were hooked up with the electrodes, and I saw that a few times. But Peng has gotten highest on his gamma. He claims he's going to get it up to 20 one of these days, so we'll see. But there's not a lot known right now about gamma brainwave frequencies, but what we do know is that it tends to have more to do with manifestation and just higher levels of reasoning or processing of the intellect. But yeah, I definitely see a drastic difference in Peng's brainwaves when he's entering that altered state of consciousness. So there's something going on there related. So this is Peng hooked up. This is his brain as normal. And what you're looking at is, this is the left side of his brain and this is the right side of his brain. And we've got delta all the way over to, so the slowest brainwave frequency all the way to the fastest gamma. So this is him still in his normal state, and you'll notice that he has predominantly delta, theta, and alpha going on right here. His over here are going to be the betas, and then the gamma over in this area. And so in just a short period here, he's going to go back into that altered state, and you'll see a drastic change. You'll see a lot of this beta and gamma really spike up there. In just a minute here, right there, yep. So right here you notice The red color basically means there's a lot of energy there. When you have the blues and the greens means there's very little. So you can see he's got a lot of that beta and gamma going on while he's in that altered state. Really heavy activity there. And then it just cuts off right away. So it's clear based on how drastic this cutoff mark is that Peng really is controlling what he's doing with his brain by choosing to tap in and choosing to tap out of this state of consciousness. So that's pretty amazing that he's practiced to get to that level of control with the brain. I've never seen that with any individual on that degree. Like right here, I mean, it's just a clear line right across there from normal state to altered state right there. So practice your Qigong so you can learn how to do this. I need to practice my Qigong. And then again, he taps out right there. And this was the one we recorded where we told him to amp it up as much as he could, and he was shaking in the chair. Granted, everybody's brain is unique. Some people have very energetic brains, and some people have quieter brains. But this is an individual who has, you know, just pretty average person. It's my dad, actually. But so no psychic or intuitive abilities whatsoever. And you'll notice that that gamma frequency, the beta frequency, is not there for him. He definitely has the delta, theta, alpha, and the betas going on, which end right around here. But the rest of the frequency, it's pretty much completely absent of any gamma. And this is the same area of the brain that we had Peng hooked up on while he was doing his exercises, the parietal lobes. So it's a good comparison of what went on with his brain when he was controlling the different states and what goes on in a little bit more of just the average brain that you would see. We did a trade, Peng and I exchanged. He came in and did the brain training, and I went up and did a Qigong session with him. And it was the first Qigong I'd ever experienced. And I'm not very sensitive to energy or anything like that, but the session lasted maybe an hour, and I could feel the energy in different areas of my body when he was working on like my feet or whatnot, which for me was a big deal because I've had other energy work, but I never feel anything. I'm always like, well, okay, I just kind of trust that something happened, and you know. And one of the things I went to him for was I've been having back pain since I was a gymnast, and I had back pain since I was like 14 or 15. And it had gotten to the point where it was really uncomfortable for me. And I had gone to many chiropractors, and chiropractors had been in business for 30 years, so I should know what they're doing. And I work out pretty regularly, so it wasn't necessarily an issue of just not being in shape. And he, at the very end of the session, he had me stand up so he could access my back easily. He looked at it for a second with his Superman scope eyes, and he's like, oh, this is easy. And he goes, doop, doop, doop. And I was just standing there, and immediately my face went white, and he's like, all right, we're done. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm gonna puke. But I had to sit down for a minute or two, and like just literally felt like I was going to pass out. And not that he's going to hurt you. I hadn't eaten. That's why, you know, it happened that way for me. But it was something where my body strongly reacted to whatever energy shift he did. And from 2 days after that until now, which I think it's maybe been about a year or so, I've had almost zero back pain. And it was maybe 2 months ago I experienced a tiny, tiny bit, and that was it. And it's been gone ever since. And to me, that's amazing because it honestly was something I had every day. So from a testimonial, that's my experience working with Peng. I took one of his classes, and that was great, very informative, and he gives you really good exercises that you can practice on a day-to-day to help become more sensitive to energy yourself. And you do have to be diligent about it, but it's worth it in the long run, I think. And just with regards to the brain training, I've seen some pretty, like, his ability to have control over his brain and what state he chooses to be in is very powerful from what I've seen in my experience working with brainwaves, which has been about 2 years. And
I would say the only other comparison I've heard of people who have that type of control over their brain are Buddhist monks who've been in meditation for 40 years and they learn how to control the different areas of their brain. So go see Peng, he's great.